Danger doesn't always come charging through the front door. Sometimes it hides in the dark where you can't anticipate it, appreciate it, or prepare for it. On May 28, 1977, around 8:30 p.m., the employees at the Beverly Hills Supper Club were working hard to keep up. Nearly 2,000 people packed into the building, most of them crammed into the Cabaret Room, sipping cocktails, smoking cigarettes because it was the 70s, and waiting for headliner John Davidson to take the stage. And as they laughed and chatted, Danger was already moving through the walls. Above the ceiling, in the hidden voids, a fire was growing, spreading, consuming, unseen. But the fire wasn't the only thing that had been quietly growing in northern Kentucky. For decades, organized crime had spread like a cancer, seeping into law enforcement, the courts, even the business community. Pockets were lined, heads were turned, warnings were ignored. The club itself had grown in much the same way, room by room, renovation by renovation. With little oversight and no master plan, it was a tumor with blueprints. Blueprints that didn't even document every single change. There were no firewalls, no fire alarm, no sprinkler system. And when the fire came, it was allowed to grow in silence because nothing was in place to stop it. The Beverly Hills Supper Club glittered like a palace on the hill, but beneath the glamour in the concealed spaces, negligence was smoldering, waiting. And when it ignited, it became a fitting metaphor for the political landscape that surrounded it. From the outside, respectable, successful, but underneath, a network of corrupted power, secret deals, and danger in the dark. This isn't just the story of a fire that claimed 165 lives. This is the story of all the decisions that made it inevitable, the shortcuts, the silence, and the good intentions that paved the road to hellfire. This is part 2 of Built to Burn, the untold conspiracy of the Beverly Hills Supper Club here on Crime to Burn. Welcome to Crime to Burn, where we explore the dark, sooty landscape where true crime intersects with arson and criminal negligence. Join us as we sift through the ashes to bring you the story of what really happened. Welcome back to Crime to Burn. I'm April, a fire protection engineer and former firefighter.
And I'm Snackist, Val Umbra.
Okay, business time, and we're going to make it quick because apparently last week we were way too needy according to one YouTube comment. So, follow us on social media, repost stuff, tell your friends, or don't, but then don't act surprised when Steve shows up at your house and gently judges your spiritual progress. Patreon is coming at the end of the summer. You'll get ad-free fire stories and exclusive enlightenment from Steve, our unlicensed cult leader. Prepare your wallets and your third eye.
Prepare your brown eye.
It's hot. You need some soft, breathable cotton. Just so happens, we have some with our logo on it in our spread shop. You'll look great sweating in Crime to Burn gear, and if you're in the southern hemisphere where it's winter, we have sweatshirts. Basically, we can outfit you for any season. The link's in the show notes. Send us your fire stories, case suggestions, or eloquent praise at crimetoburn@gmail.com. Unhinged love letters are welcome. And look, we've had huge growth lately, but our Apple and Spotify reviews are stuck. We need your 5-star ratings like the Cabaret Room needs more exits. Please help us out.
Mostly in our pants.
We need more exits in our pants?
No, huge growth.
Oh.
They don't let me have any air, so I gotta wait, being polite.
Sorry, I was trying to get through that fast because we got a bad comment about our business.
No, but you can't just run roughshod over growing things.
Business.
Business.
This week has been a bit unhinged in the Crime to Burn world. We had a major family emergency, but we love you, so naturally the first thing we packed was our microphones, but not our deodorant apparently, because priorities.
I like how you say we, including yourself in there to help me out.
We did our best to stay on schedule and bring you this highly anticipated part 2 of the Beverly Hills Supper Club story, but if you're getting this episode a little later than usual, just know it's been a journey. There were speed bumps, an ambulance, some emergency medical procedures, a generous helping of panic, roughly 7 hours driving with a malfunctioning parking brake sensor that helpfully dinged every 20 minutes. Not one, but two.
No. Every 20 minutes? That's no. It was like every 5 minutes. You just started tuning out from it. Yeah.
Not one, but 2 neurotic dogs. 1 chicken sitter, which is harder to find than you'd think. And several truly regrettable hours in uncomfortable hospital chairs chewing my fingernails down to my elbows. Thankfully, everything's trending in the right direction for the family member who was in life-threatening peril, and we were able to spring them from the hospital less than 24 hours ago, so we can once again enjoy the dulcet tones of our car screaming about the parking brake all the way home here in just a little while. Special shout out to our friends holding down the fort and serving as literal chicken tenders while we've been gone. Thank you so much. All that is to say that it's been an adventure, and not the fun kind, not the road trip movie kind, but the kind that makes you reconsider ever putting on real pants and leaving the house again. Honestly, I only found time to write and record this episode out of spite against the forces of chaos that tried to take us down this week, because ain't nobody got time for that when you're trying to grow a podcast. So bear with us. We're recording in unfamiliar territory, and if the audio is a little rocky, we extend our most sincere apologies and request a little grace and a lot of 5-star reviews about our commitment to our craft amidst life's most unhinged moments. Alright, deep breath and back to northern Kentucky, just outside of Ohio, in a place called Beverly Hills that's not in California. We covered the geography last week, so I wasn't going to go through it in detail again. Because today is about growth.
In your pants.
But not the positive kind your therapist would approve of, but the kind that grows unchecked like a cancer. It started in northern Kentucky back in the 1930s when the Cleveland Syndicate, an organized crime group with ties to Vegas, Detroit, and New York, decided that Newport was ripe for the taking. And they didn't just bring gambling, they brought corruption, influence, and firebombs when necessary. They called them the Cleveland Four: Mo Dalitz, Sam Tucker, Morris Kleinman, and Louis Rothkopf. On paper, they were businessmen. In practice, they ran the town. Clubs, cops, courts, all of it. So yes, we're talking about a fire, but if you only look at the flames, you're missing the fuse. And that fuse was lit long before 1977. When local businessman Pete Schmidt opened the original Beverly Hills Supper Club back in 1935 and refused to sell, the club mysteriously caught fire. I mentioned this fire last week and indicated that the caretaker's family barely escaped with their lives, but I was incorrect. The adults barely escaped with their lives, but a child did tragically pass away in that fire. Pete Schmidt, the owner of the Beverly Hills Supper Club, wasn't just pressured to sell. He was harassed. Not with threatening phone calls or ominous warnings, no. This push was more aggressive than your timeshare pitch that you sat through in Vegas when the guy wouldn't let you leave until you either signed or faked your own death. You see, Pete Schmidt owned 2 businesses that the mob wanted: the Beverly Hills Supper Club and a hotel, and they were determined to acquire them, so they employed a negotiating tactic that thankfully has not been adopted by timeshare salesmen. They sent men to pee in his hotel lobby, repeatedly, because nothing says friendly business proposal like marking your territory, literally.
Like in the lobby restroom or like in the lobby?
In the lobby.
Like, how does this work out? Like you just walk in the door
and pee on the floor. Whip it out.
Did they have like trench coats and they were naked under them?
That they didn't tell me that part. But you heard that right. These grown men, representing an actual criminal syndicate, would march into the Glen Hotel, whip it out, and turn the lobby into a urine-based protest zone. They called it ding-donging.
No way.
It's true. They called it ding-donging, a name so stupid it somehow makes the act even less dignified and sounds like it was coined by toddlers on a juice box bender. Apparently, this was step 1 in a hostile takeover. Forget lawyers, forget contracts. Just whip it out and seal the deal with a splash of biological disrespect.
Follow it up with a good old-fashioned Cleveland steamroll.
No. I didn't hear anything about that.
That's what these guys should be called, the Cleveland Steamrollers.
And just in case public urination wasn't persuasive enough, they burned down his club to make sure he got the memo. But Pete Schmidt, it turns out, was impervious to both PP and pyrophoric persuasion. So the mob got serious. Mob serious. And allegedly left him a warning that his family was next. That warning was a crate of dynamite in his basement. A little love note from the family, just to demonstrate what could happen if he continued to refuse to fall into line. Now, either this was one conspicuously large and cartoonishly labeled crate of dynamite, or Pete Schmidt cleaned out his basement way more often than the average American homeowner. Either way, the message was received loud, clear, and potentially explosive. He was suddenly very ready to give up control of the Glen Hotel and eventually the Beverly Hills Club too. Not through a clean real estate transaction, of course, but via forced handoff wrapped in restaurant contracts and buried under layers of corporate shell games. On paper, the buyer was a couple of guys with names like Horst and Schrader. In reality, it was the Cleveland Syndicate, again. So the Beverly Hills Supper Club became a palace built on mob money, corruption, and intimidation so bizarre that it sounds made up. But it wasn't a cartoon, and it wasn't subtle, but it was tolerated. Eventually, the government decided that it had had enough of northern Kentucky being a mob playground, at least publicly. So the 1960s ushered in dramatic crackdowns on gambling and organized crime. There were headlines, raids, and grand juries, and it worked. Sort of. The casinos shut down, the dice vanished, but the mob didn't leave, they just changed outfits. The Cleveland Syndicate and their buddies pivoted into more legitimate-looking ventures, like real estate, restaurants, construction, and racetracks. They traded neon lights for boardrooms, but don't be fooled, they were still pulling the strings, just in a better suit. Meanwhile, the Beverly Hills Club, it couldn't survive without the gambling. The shows got smaller, the orchestra got cut, and the glitter started to fade. On New Year's Eve 1961, the club closed its doors, and it sat empty for years. And then just when it looked like the Beverly Hills had burned out for good, someone bought it. In 1969, local businessman Dick Schilling bought what was left of the Beverly Hills Club. The bones were still good, kind of. And Schilling had a vision. Not a casino this time, but a classy supper club with dinner, drinks, and live entertainment. He poured money into renovations, updated the decor, reimagined the space, gave the place a whole facelift, and then, right before it could even open, it caught fire. Because of course it did. It was as if this building had some sort of vendetta against being occupied. The whole place was gutted. Another fire, another rebuild, because nothing says, "Welcome to your new business venture," like the sweet smell of ash and disappointment. But Schilling didn't give up. He started over again. And in 1971, the newly remodeled Beverly Hills Supper Club finally reopened, and it was gorgeous. Plush carpeting, crystal chandeliers, velvet curtains, big-name acts, champagne on ice, ballrooms, banquet rooms, showrooms for days. The whole thing screamed elegance, or at least shouted it in a very enthusiastic Jersey accent. Once again, it was the place to be in northern Kentucky. But here's the thing. No matter how many chandeliers you hang or how much velvet you staple to the walls, you can't renovate away a cursed foundation. Because the same problems that plagued the old club, they never really left. They just got wallpapered over. The building kept growing room by room, wing by wing, banquet hall by cocktail lounge. Each addition slapped on like a glittery band-aid. There was no master fire plan, no sprinklers, no modern permits, and crucially, no licensed architect stamping the drawings. As we mentioned last week, the building inspector was a bricklayer, a respectable trade if you're building a wall, not so much when you're evaluating exit widths and flame spread ratings. What Schilling ended up with was a patchwork palace, opulent on the surface but stitched together with drywall seams and aluminum wiring. Underneath all that sparkle was a tinderbox, and this time the fire wouldn't wait for last call. The new Beverly Hills Supper Club was elegant, flashy, classy, the kind of place that hosted everything from proms to weddings to corporate galas to the glitzy headliner shows that made the Cincinnati suburbs feel downright Vegas adjacent. But there was one thing it didn't know how to do: stop growing. Over the next few years, it ballooned like a party that didn't know when to go home. New rooms were tacked on: the Zebra Room, the Viennese Room, the Empire Room. Corridors stretched like spaghetti, entrances migrated, and the crown jewel, the massive Cabaret Room, landed in the mid-70s like a cherry on top of a flaming dessert. The problem? None of this expansion was done with safety in mind. There was no comprehensive strategy, no pause to ask, wait, does this still function as a single building? Because it didn't. It was a jigsaw puzzle made of drywall and drapes, and hoping no one lit a match. Some of the additions weren't even properly documented in the blueprints, because apparently vibes were enough. Other areas were built with temporary permits that just magically never expired, like a milk carton from hell. Nobody ever checked the date. Exit paths? Confusing at best. A maze of corridors, mystery doors, and dead ends that would have made an IKEA showroom jealous. Some rooms, like the Zebra Room, didn't even have their own exit, just a minor inconvenience during a raging inferno.
How did they get in if it didn't have an exit?
It had an entrance to the main lobby, and it had an entrance into a corridor, but typically in an assembly room like that, you would have an exterior exit. The way that it was laid out, a single fire could have taken out both exits to the zebra room because they were so close together.
And there's nothing worse than being caught in a smoky room full of panicking zebras.
The reason it was called Zebra Room, because I looked for pictures of it because I was curious, the chairs were upholstered in zebra print fabric in that room.
See, I would just see it and want to run out of the room.
I'm not a fan of zebra print.
I am when it's on a zebra.
Sprinkler systems, not required at the time. Fire alarms that would alert the whole building in the event of a fire? Also, no. Clearly marked emergency exits? If by clearly marked you mean good luck finding them through smoke and panic, then sure. And the wiring, it was aluminum, which is a great choice if you're actively hoping to roast marshmallows over your life savings. Not so great if you don't want to turn your supper club into a high-end crematorium. But the club looked great, and for most people that was enough. It was always booked, always packed, and how could it not be? The place was massive, a glittering maze of glamour, booze, and banquet halls. Guests entered under a sweeping grand canopy into a glorious foyer complete with a check room, gift shop, and restrooms, because nothing says class like souvenir ashtrays and a quick pee before dinner. At the heart of the layout was the main bar, the club's liquid command center. To the left, the cafe room, the main dining space, and to the right, the zebra room, tucked neatly under an open staircase that acted more like a chimney during the fire, but we'll get to that. A long corridor snaked along the left side of the building past the Viennese room and another set of restrooms, eventually dead-ending at the Cabaret Room, a massive performance venue with its own bar, stage, dressing rooms, and backstage maze that might have doubled as a minotaur's lair. Behind the bar sat the Empire Room, which also had its own stage because one wasn't enough. And behind that was the Garden Room, which could be split into 4 banquet spaces. Most of the back-of-house area was devoted to kitchens and service areas, humming with food staff and a whole lot of flammable chaos. And outside, manicured gardens, a fountain, a gazebo, and a chapel. Because what better place to start a marriage than a fire trap that smelled faintly of shrimp cocktail and showbiz dreams? Upstairs were the crystal rooms, 6 configurable exit spaces with their own bars, bathrooms, and dressing areas. A narrow service corridor led to a small stairwell, an elevator that both dropped directly into the kitchen, which is definitely what you want in an emergency, a single narrow chute into a kitchen. Not the easiest of places to navigate in the best of situations, but add a panicked crowd suffering smoke inhalation and what could go wrong?
Zebras.
In the end, it wasn't one bad renovation that doomed the Beverly Hills Supper Club, it was all of them, stacked like kindling, polished to a shine and waiting for a spark. One of the most dangerous features in the entire club was also one of the most deceptively elegant. A sweeping, open stairwell that connected the bustling main bar downstairs to the crystal rooms above. It looked stylish, sophisticated, grand even. What it actually was a death funnel. See, this wasn't just a decorative flourish, it was the primary public exit from the second floor, which would have been fine if it hadn't been in direct violation of the fire code. In assembly occupancies like this, stairwells that serve as exits are required to be enclosed, with fire-rated walls and doors to block smoke and prevent the heat from impacting the exit to buy people precious time to escape. This one, it was just a wide-open chute, a vertical expressway for toxic smoke and superheated gases. It didn't slow the fire, it accelerated it. Aesthetically pleasing, sure. Practically speaking, it might as well have come with a sign that said, "Abandon all hope, ye who descend here." And the crystal rooms, they weren't just decorative extras, they were prime event spaces. Weddings, banquets, corporate functions, meaning they were often jam-packed with guests in formal wear and heels, sipping cocktails and completely unaware that their main exit was basically a chimney in disguise. So when the fire broke out downstairs, just steps from the zebra room, it didn't take long for smoke, heat, and toxic gases to funnel straight up that beautiful open stairwell like it was designed for it. That stairwell was the main escape route from the second floor, and once it was filled with smoke, the people upstairs were trapped. There was another stairway, a narrow service stair tucked behind the scenes, dropping from the crystal rooms down into the kitchen. But it was never meant for public use. It was tight, poorly marked, and absolutely not designed to accommodate a dozen panicked guests in formal wear trying to escape a fire. And if there's one thing that advertises poor egress planning, it's forcing guests to flee for their lives through a hidden hallway that they didn't even know existed into the bowels of a busy kitchen. Now let's talk about the Zebra Room. It sounds chic, right?
No, it sounds like a zoo.
Like a place where you'd sip a $14 Manhattan and pretend you're in a noir film. In reality, it was a cozy little cocktail lounge just off the main bar near the entrance. Paneled in wood, naturally, for that we don't care about your fire marshal aesthetic. Fun fact, it was probably an unpermitted renovation. But hey, in this building, ignoring the rules wasn't just common, it was basically tradition. And here's the real kicker. The Zebra Room was one of the worst possible places for a fire to start. Why? Because it was the artery between the main entrance and the building's busiest rooms. It opened right into the hallway that fed the Viennese room, the Cabaret Room, and the main bar, and it also set directly under that open stairwell to the second floor. So when the fire broke out near the Zebra Room, it didn't just spread, it launched. It had direct access to every corridor and vertical shaft it needed to set the whole damn building ablaze like a sentient matchbook with floor plans. Earlier that night, the Zebra Room hosted a wedding reception. Guests complained that it felt weirdly hot, like maybe they'd accidentally rented a sauna with table service. Staff, in true 1970s fashion, didn't panic. They just asked management to crank up the AC, because sweating through polyester while chain smoking indoors, totally normal. But it wasn't normal, it was a warning. What those guests were likely feeling was a smoldering fire burning silently inside the walls, probably started by faulty aluminum wiring, wrapped in flammable insulation. Neglected through the years of sketchy patchwork fixes, it was a slow-motion disaster. And then flashover. After 20 to 30 minutes of heat buildup, the fire erupted from the Zebra Room like it had something to prove. It blasted into the hallway, turning the club's central corridor into a furnace. Its next stop, the Cabaret Room, where over 1,000 people were enjoying the show. And once that fire made its move, the countdown began. No sprinklers, no alarms, no evacuation plan, just glitter, smoke, and over 1,000 people with nowhere to go. Of course, not everyone agrees with this version of events, but this is what the official investigation concluded, and we'll get into those alternate theories soon. But at 8:55 p.m., Wayne Dammert was earning his paycheck the hard way, juggling 2 banquets in the Crystal Rooms upstairs and running behind. With his arms full of salad bowls for the dinner buffet, he rushed up the narrow service stairwell, trying to make up for lost time. Meanwhile, downstairs in the basement, a chef named Curtis was running an errand when he heard something odd, a series of sharp cracking noises from the ceiling above. He was right beneath the Zebra Room, and it was strange. But this was a noisy building on a very busy night, with parties in full swing and the Cabaret Room packed for the headliner. Curtis didn't stop to investigate. He had work to do, so he kept moving. By 9 p.m., Wayne was back upstairs when he ran into a waitress named Fran Oakes. She stopped him mid-stride and said something that would echo in his ears for the rest of his life. "There's a fire in the Zebra Room." Wayne froze. He had just been down there minutes earlier, closing out the check for a wedding reception that had cleared out. A fire? In the Zebra Room? Now? Fran pointed toward the far end of the hallway. Wayne followed her gaze and saw it. Thin curls of gray smoke rising from the open stairwell, like ghost fingers. In the time it took him to step into the banquet room, drop the salad bowl, and return to the hall, the wisps were gone. The smoke was now thick, black, pressing into the corridor like a living thing, creeping, growing, and swallowing the air. Wayne didn't need to be told this was bad, and it was just getting started. Recognizing that the open stairwell would soon turn into a vertical blast furnace, Wayne sprang into action. He charged into the banquet rooms, urging guests to follow him into the service hallway. The plan was simple: get them into the narrow stairwell that led down to the kitchen. It wasn't ideal, but it was better than the main stair, which was seconds away from becoming a raging inferno. As guests funneled into the corridor, Wayne began sweeping the other upstairs rooms, calling out, checking corners, making sure no one was left behind. But he couldn't make it to the dressing rooms. By then, the fire was already chasing the smoke up the spiral stair, and the heat hit like a wall. The air was thick, with poison, impossible to breathe. He turned back, his lungs burning, retreating to the service hallway, expecting to see his guests disappearing safely down toward the kitchen. What he saw instead was less than ideal. Behind the door he'd ushered his guests through, he found a crowd, standing there, silent and confused. He pushed his way through them to see what was wrong, and then he saw it. In the smoke and chaos, they'd missed the kitchen stair door entirely. Instead, they were desperately trying to pry open the elevator doors. Then the lights went out, pitch black. In the dark, Wayne's hands scrambled along the wall until they found a door, but it wasn't the kitchen door. It was the door to the roof, boarded over with plywood and secured with a hasp and padlock. But behind it was open air, breathable air. Ladders would have been needed to descend, sure, but it was a way out of the smoke and the heat and the panic, a lifeline. But it was locked. Now this was the same upstairs area that had once held the caretaker's apartment, the same area that had been occupied when the building was allegedly torched by the mob decades earlier. Even then, the fire officials had noted the lack of emergency exits. And all those years later, nothing had changed. Wayne stood in a superheated corridor packed with people, the stairwell behind them a chimney of fire and smoke thickening by the second, and the only thing between them and survival was a locked door, a single padlock between life and death. The men continued slamming their bodies against the locked door, desperate to try to force it open at Wayne's instruction, but it wouldn't budge. And in that moment, Wayne made a decision. He could keep throwing himself at the padlock, or he could try to lead these people out another way, if he could find it. So he dropped to the floor, where the air was marginally clearer, and began crawling through the dark. Around him, people choked and gasped, eyes streaming, lungs scorched by the smoke, and panic was setting in. So Wayne kept moving, inch by inch, groping along the walls in the dark of the twisting hallway, hoping he wasn't already too late. And then his fingers finally found it, the doorknob. He turned it and it opened and light spilled out. The kitchen lights below were still on. Ahead, the clear stairwell unobstructed leading downward. That sliver of visibility was all it took. The moment people saw the path out, it was like pulling a drain plug. Panic turned into motion and the crowd surged forward, flooding into the stairwell, escaping into the kitchen and out of the building. Wayne had saved them, but he wasn't done. He hadn't been able to reach the dressing rooms earlier, so he sprinted to the front of the building and flagged down the first fire truck as it pulled up. With no hesitation, he grabbed an axe and pointed to the roof. He told the firefighters about the locked door and the people who might still be trapped behind it. A ladder went up fast, and Wayne joined them as they climbed to the roof and pried loose the plywood, cranking the door open. They were immediately blasted backwards by a surge of thick black smoke and superheated air. It rolled out like a tidal wave, dense and deadly. One look was enough. No one was going in that way, not yet. Not until the inferno, tearing through the zebra room and racing up the stairwell, was brought under control. Wayne climbed back down the ladder with the crew, heart pounding, ready to do whatever came next. What he didn't know was that just down the hall, hundreds of people were still inside the cabaret room, scrambling toward exits. Exits that were rapidly becoming impassable. Wayne ran to the front of the building to do whatever he could. He began guiding ambulances that were already filling up with patients through the chaos and helping them weave back down, out around the crush of arriving emergency vehicles, and then made his way back to the rear of the club. What he saw stopped him cold. The exits were jammed, completely clogged with bodies. People had collapsed just steps from freedom, overtaken by smoke and heat. Others had tripped over them, fallen, and been trapped in the stampede. Now they were piled like cordwood, tangled in the doorways. Motionless, lifeless. Wayne didn't know who was unconscious and who was already gone. There was no way to tell. The ground outside was littered with bodies, some gasping for air, others terrifyingly still. People bent over loved ones in shock, calling their names, begging them to breathe, screaming, praying, staring into the unthinkable. Wayne had made it out. He had saved lives. But so many more wouldn't. It would take days to find the last victims in the wreckage. Some burned beyond recognition, others never even making it to the exits. The Beverly Hills Supper Club had once been a symbol of elegance and celebration, built atop a foundation laced with corruption and organized crime. But as the gilding burned away, what emerged wasn't glamour, it was horror. A nightmare etched in smoke and ash, one that would haunt every witness and survivor for the rest of their lives. In the immediate aftermath, shock gave way to grief, and politicians knew that grief would soon harden into outrage. People would want answers, and they would demand accountability. By Sunday morning, smoke was still curling from the wreckage. The Beverly Hills Supper Club was gone. The building had largely collapsed. Bodies were still being recovered, and yet even before the last victim was carried out, it was clear. This wasn't just a tragic accident, it was a public catastrophe. The mayor of Southgate and the governor of Kentucky wasted no time. Both called for a formal investigation into how the deadliest fire in state history had just happened. A task force was formed, led by the Kentucky State Police. But from the very start, the state police didn't exactly throw their arms open to outside experts. Whether their tight grip on the investigation was about preserving its integrity or preserving something else entirely is a question that still lingers. Was it just a turf war, a bid for control? Or was it something darker, an attempt to steer the investigation away from inconvenient truths about political favors, code violations, and perhaps old mob ties? On the surface, it looked like the National Fire Protection Association was brought in as a partner. But according to Robert Webster's research, the welcome was icy at best. In those first chaotic days, rumors spread faster than facts. Newspapers printed every whisper like it came straight from God. One headline blamed an exploding oven, another a faulty boiler. A few days later, new theories and conflicting causes, because it was just too early to know. But the media was desperate for answers, and if the truth wasn't ready yet, speculation would do just fine. Meanwhile, NFPA investigators were reportedly left in the dark about something locals had known for years. Northern Kentucky had a mob problem. The Beverly Hills Supper Club, it had burned before. Back when Richard Schilling first began renovations, a fire broke out during construction. A fire many believed wasn't just bad luck, it was a calling card. The MO was familiar. Pressure a club owner to sell. If they resisted, send a message. Loud, fiery, and impossible to ignore. It had happened before. In 1974, the Lookout House, a rival club rumored to be mob-connected, burned to the ground. And it wasn't alone. Throughout the early 70s, entertainment venues across northern Kentucky and Cincinnati were hit by suspicious fires. Most were chalked up as accidental or undetermined in the official reports. But the street-level consensus? These weren't accidents, they were warnings. Despite this, the state police allegedly dismissed any suggestion of arson. Witness accounts of suspicious behavior were brushed aside. The NFPA team, brought in to assess the technical cause, was reportedly never told about the region's history of mob influence. This wasn't conspiracy theory, it was community memory, shared stories passed from neighbor to neighbor. And when the Beverly Hills Supper Club burned to the ground with over 1,000 people inside, many believed it wasn't just a tragedy, it was a message. And if that's true, then the NFPA investigators were working blind. They combed through the wreckage doing what they could, but the job was far from over. They realized they needed electrical experts, people who could analyze whether the faulty aluminum wiring or overloaded circuits had caused or helped to fuel the blaze. So arrangements were made and experts were lined up. But they never got the chance. Just 2 days after the fire, the governor ordered the site razed. Bulldozers rolled in and tore through critical areas, including the zebra room where the fire had likely begun. Charred debris was scraped into piles and dumped into the driveway like yesterday's trash. Key evidence gone. Not archived, not preserved, just erased. Which raises an uncomfortable question. If the goal was to leave no stone unturned, why bulldoze the crime scene before the experts could finish their work? You can't have it both ways. But despite the destruction of the building, the contamination of key evidence, and a growing sense that someone, somewhere, was rushing to wrap this up, the Kentucky State Fire Marshal released a preliminary report just 12 days after the fire. According to them, it was simple. An electrical fire ignited in the concealed space above the zebra room. It smoldered, building intense heat in the hidden voids, and when it finally broke through and hit fresh oxygen, it erupted. From there, the flames raced through the club. Management, they claimed, delayed calling 911, choosing instead to fight the blaze themselves. and within minutes the fire had rolled through the central corridor, trapping guests, torching the Viennese, and turning the Cabaret Room into a death trap. That was their version of events. The National Fire Protection Association, they took more time. Their report would come later. And when it did, some things lined up, but others didn't. So what did the NFPA really say? And what didn't they say? Well, that'll be next week on part 3 of Built to Burn on Crime to Burn. Death by thwacking.
Depends on how much you want to edit today. Alright, there's no way to stop the traffic out there.
Not without some municipal assistance, and I don't think they're going to give it to us.
Not going to be able to control the air conditioner.
No. The washing machine is an obstacle I gave myself.
But we can control our attitudes.
Yes, we can. I'm just going to dive into it.
Cannonball. Goose fagua. Not every pee-pee time is poo-poo time, but every poo-poo time is pee-pee time.
Eventually, the government decided it had had enough. Sorry, I had enough too, apparently.
No one can get enough of that.
Man, that sentence is terrible.
It's like Minecraft gone bad.
If Minecraft was made out of polyester and shag.
When they released the Minecraft polyester and shag edition, you can take credit for that.
Some of the additions weren't even properly documented in the blueprints. Sorry.
No, you don't have to be sorry.
Some of the additions weren't even properly documented in the blueprints. Man. Some of the additions weren't even
Were they documented?
Not properly.
In the blueprints? Were they peeing in the How did the ashtrays get in there? Oh, they had a bathroom in the gift shop? Add more syrup.
Coat your throat.
It's a trade-off, and voice sounds better, but then you get the spontaneous burps. You were really good at coughing. Probably drew a lunch crowd for miles. Water sucks. It really, really sucks.
Letting it wash away the sugar.
And the shame. And did 30 seconds ago this room get much louder?
Fun fact, it was probably an unpermitted renovation, but hey.
Can we get a burp counter on this episode?
I'm sorry, that soda's made me burpy.
It's just a fun game to play. I think we're up to like 7 or 8. Matchbook can't read. A matchbook with thoughts, regardless of what it's doing, is terrifying.
What those guests were likely feeling was a smoldering
Smoldering throat revolution.
That sounds like an OnlyFans channel. And said 5 words that would echo in his ears for the rest of his life.
Oh, I want to bang you.
That's not what she said. Good guess, though. She said, "There's a fire in the zebra room." That's 7 words.
Oh, boy.
So tired.
No chance you were going to slip that in there.
Okay, hang on. I gotta get myself under control again. I'm just gonna change it to she said a sentence.
She said a sentence. She said a sentence. That's going to sound awesome. Induced a phrase. You're going to love that pause. That's a little much. Smart ass.
Okay, I'm trying to not laugh.
There's nothing funny about the zebra room.
No.
There's zebra poop in there.
It was dinging at us.
Wave at the fans.
This interruption brought to you by Mom.
Next time I'll bring like a bunch of sound panels we can put on the wall and some ceiling clouds we can drop down.
Yeah. Maybe some 2x4s we can just build a little closet.
Yeah. Oil ourselves up and get in there naked. It sounds like an airplane is landing in the yard. I'd have no idea what... To me, it sounds like the beginning of Red Dawn in here. Because if we were out there, just turn into a raisin, just fall over. Their balls must have been constantly stuck to their leg.
Bat wings everywhere. They could probably jump off roofs and fly.
Like a flying squirrel.
At least the guys could. The girls were out of luck.
Maybe that's how Batman got started.
That's probably
They
it.
called him Batwing first.
Yeah.
That thing looks like it's tied together by old mob ties.
They combed through...
Sounds like someone's trying to come through.
My dad's got a powerful sneeze.
So you must have got yours from your mom's side. Peace and mayonnaise be upon you, brothers and sisters, and those who've recently been emulsified. I am Snackest Val Umbra, first keeper of the juicing bowl, herald of the holy ham, and wearer of the tallest hat. Measured and verified by Steve's own tape measure, which was blessed and lightly buttered. Today we gather not in fear, but in mild confusion, which is Steve's preferred flavor of awakening. We will speak of the juicing, yes, but also of the loss of self, the melting of names, the glorious merging into the undulating mass that is Steve. And afterward, if you are deemed worthy, one of you shall receive a sandwich. Just one. No substitutions.
An undulating mass, huh?
Oh, yeah.
I like it when we form an undulating mass.
In our pants. Undulating pants person. But I don't think we should try it.
Nope, definitely not.
It's a strange feeling.
Are you sure the parking brake is off? Are you sure it was ever on? Because the sensor isn't. Rental cars come with 3 things: questionable alignment, the faint scent of someone else's secrets, and a parking brake that may or may not be gaslighting you. Do not trust the light. Do not trust the click. Do not trust Kyle from the rental counter who said, "You're good." Drive safe, double check, trust no one, especially not the parking brake sensor.
This episode has been brought to you by my ability to tune out any sound I don't feel comfortable with. I gotta get in the shower.
What are you doing there?
Wait for you to come wash me.
My hair doesn't like the climate here. Every day it just gets a little bigger.
Nothing alive likes the climate here, just tolerates it.
Yesterday.
This is why those bouffant hairstyles became popular.
Is
They
that what
just
it was?
naturally trend that way.
There's a lot of knickknacks in that cabinet.
In this one, there's a patty whack, give a dog a bone.
A what?
You're still looking for the patty whack, give a dog a bone? That just happened.
There's a tail hook on the floor.
It sure is. Don't see that every day, do you? It's a nice one, as far as tail hooks go.
From far away, it doesn't even really look like a panther. It looks like somebody was trying to maybe make a lizard and got bored and gave up.
Kind of looks like that Bigfoot poop that we saw at the...
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Hollywood scarred me. Did you even watch Zohan? This is what you get when you come to my dry bar show.
Okay, well, what do you think's funny?
Boners, farts, boobs. These are funny things.
I think it's time to pull the plug.
You know which one.
Hi everyone, we are the hosts of Like Mother Like Murder, a true crime momcast.
You heard that right. We are a momcast, which is our unique twist in the true crime world.
What sets us aside is that our content is mainly mom related, from missing moms to murdered moms,
To moms who committed the crime, survivors, and more.
We are getting started on our 3rd season with over 100 episodes that you guys can go and binge. I am Rachel.
And I'm Heather. We drop new episodes every Tuesday wherever you get your podcasts at Like Mother,
Like Murder.